this video, we have a massive win coming out of CGC for indeed the single highest graded copy of a key issue comic book. First time I've ever been able to say that, I believe, for a book that's come through my shop. So that's very exciting. We also have the results from my ASM 252 that I cracked out to have the signatures authenticated. We have the results for that and some really interesting things to talk about, some really helpful information surrounding JSA, signature series, and things along those lines. Don't forget to check out brycecomics.com. We have new inventory coming typically Monday through Friday, about 50 new slabs a day. Use code COLLECT10 for 10% off, and sign up for the newsletter while you're there, and you'll get first access to, geez, this is all sold out. The affordable stuff is just flying off the shelf. But there will be, I have a whole bunch of grails and major keys coming next week, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. So sign up for that newsletter and you'll get first access and special discount codes and the like. And I also might do a Whatnot show this Friday if you're watching it the day it comes out. I have enough books to do a show there. So if all goes according to plan, I will be live on Whatnot this Friday for $1 starts on slabs, where I will take a bath on prices. So come and get some comics at a huge discount on Whatnot. There's a link in the description for $15 towards your first purchase. I believe this is the last chance to get on the giveaways for the YouTube channel, the Gold Spidey here on the YouTube. Subscribe, comment, and like, and you're entered to win that. The single highest graded, one of one, Saga of the Swamp Thing number 37 in a 9.8 white pages, a Canadian price variant, the first full appearance of John Constantine. So this I had on my site as a 9.6, and the last sale of a 9.6 was around $2,400. And so this all started with my buddy Justin. He bought a Amazing Spider-Man 50 from me off my website. It was a CBCS 8.5, and I said that this is a CPR candidate. It stands a chance of getting a bump, and there was a big price difference for an ASM 50. First of all, just from CBCS to CGC, because CBCS is typically worth about 10 to 20% less than CGC, and also to get the potential grade bump. That's like a CPR gold mine. If you can get an undergraded CBCS comic book and bump it to a CGC, like, it's just, you're exponentially increasing the value. So he did that, and he was successful. We sent it to my buddy Ron at palmbeachpresser.com. Not a sponsor, just an organic promotion. Really great guy, does fantastic work. He has a quick turnaround time and affordable prices. What more could you ask for? And so we got the bump to a 9.0, and it was about a $2,500 increase in value. And he said, man, this feels great. You got any others? And I said, well, actually, as a matter of fact, yeah, I have the Saga of the Swamp Thing 37. It's a 9.6, and I think it has a real chance at getting a bump. And sure enough, pressed and cleaned it, and it got the bump. So now it's the single highest graded copy. And so that begs the question, is how much is it worth? And that's kind of an interesting thing that you have to gauge a lot of different factors. But the way we price it is a 2x increase over the 9.6. I mean, that's reasonable just for any book. Like most books in a 9.6, a 9.8 is usually at least 2x more. Sometimes there's weird anomalies where it's much more. The single highest grade, and that's where things get really squirrely, because sometimes if there is an avid collector for a certain book, I've got my dog under the table. If there's an avid collector for a certain book, they'll pay like crazy premiums, like 10 to 15x premiums for the single highest graded copy of a book. She just wants to be part of the conversation, I guess. So anyways, at the time of recording this, it is available for the 2x increase. But the caveat with this one is it's Swamp Thing 37. It's the first appearance of Constantine, which there are a lot of diehard Constantine collectors out there, but it's not like the caliber of character that you go take a mortgage out on your house for, or that you make some huge sacrifices in your life to get that single highest graded. If it was like an ASM 252, if it was a single highest graded of that, there is a way bigger buyer pool to have the single highest graded copy of that book, or like a Venom Lethal Protector number 1, you know, if it's the Black Era 10.0. So all that to say, though, it is a major feather in your cap to be able to say that you own the single highest graded copy of any key issue comic, and so I also have it available for trade, and it's just not something a lot of people can say that they have the single highest graded of something unless you got some really deep pockets. So now I want to talk about the ASM 252. I had it in a 9.8 blue label, and I did a video about it, and I cracked it out on screen because it had what CGC said was two signatures on the first page, and you can't see it, but back in the day, CGC, if a creator signed the book on the cover or inside, they would just notate it on the label as name written on cover or name written inside book. Now, a lot of people said, like, you had big balls to do that. What if it just said, like, Billy Bob or something on the inside? And I knew that it didn't just have writing on the inside, that it was an actual creator signature. Because if it was Billy Bob or something like that, then that would be treated as just a plain old defect. It wouldn't be like a qualification. It wouldn't get a note on the label. They would just downgrade the book because that's a defect. Writing of any kind is a defect. Unless it's a creator signature, then it's either notated on the label or now authenticated through JSA. So JSA teamed with CGC, as we all know at this point, to authenticate non-witnessed signatures. So we cracked it out, and I'll put up on the screen. To our surprise, there was 3 signatures, not 2. It said 2 names written on first page, but there was actually 3. And there was also some inscriptions. And so we got the results back here today. It came back a 9.8. And this is one that I gave it a safety press myself. It was a really nice copy. There was an outside chance that it didn't get the 9.8 because of a very small spine stress somewhere on the spine, but it's, I've seen much worse 9.8s. I was confident that it would still get the 9.8, and it did. But the gripe that I have here is that it says Brett Breeding, Tom DeFalco, and Ron Friends authenticated autographs on page number 1. And as you'll see on the picture I put up on the screen, it also had 2 inscriptions. It said, "Happy web slinging" and "Best wishes." And I love that. I love that it said that. It should say that on the label. It should say, signed and "Happy web slinging" by Brett Breeding, signed and "Best wishes" by Tom DeFalco, or whoever said that's right next to their name, because it's important in this case because you can't see it. It's on the first page, and so that's a big gripe that I have with signatures on the inside. Is they should put a picture of it here. I mean, they should put a picture of the signatures, so just to enhance the collectability, just to enhance our experience as collectors, So my advice is, if you are submitting things for signature authentication that are not visible, if they're on the inside of the book, take a picture of it first, because when you go to sell it, it will help. It will add, collectability to be able to see that thing without having to actually crack it out. So I took a picture, and I'll probably even print it out when I go to sell it, so you'll just have it right there with the book. Like, there's the signature, and this is just such an easy thing that they could add to it. However, I don't think they're going to do it because it's not something that's they're going to be able to charge more money for or anything like that. It's just one extra step for them. As a business standpoint, I don't think they're the type of business that would just do the right thing so the collector could have a more enjoyable experience. It's more of a quid quo pro, like there's got to be a financial incentive for a company like this, in my opinion. But I will send an email to them and say, hey, it would be really nice if you guys could take some pictures. I mean, it would be so easy. Just somebody in the grading room with an iPhone to snap a picture of it, put it on the website so we can see what the signature is. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is the census right here. It says that there's 16 in 9.8, and what that means is it's 16 JSA CGC certified copies in 9.8, 16 of those, but they are just lumping together direct edition and newsstands. And I thought that they were breaking out the newsstands now. So they just recently, within the past 5 years or so, started putting newsstand edition on the labels, whereas before it was just all lumped into one category. And I remember because somebody reached out to me with a Spider-Man 1, one of the most printed comic books in the history of comic books. I think it's like the second most, with millions and millions and millions of copies printed. And he just noticed that on the census for his newsstand 9.8, it said that there was only 10 copies. And he was like, hey, I have this really rare comic. There's only 10 of them. I'm like, dude, that is literally one of the most printed comics in history. There's not 10, there's tens of thousands of newsstand editions. Like, it's just that they just started classifying them as that. And I can understand why it's confusing, but they just started after decades of lumping them all together. They just started breaking them out. So we'll never have accurate numbers on newsstand editions ever, because they've did it for 20 years or however long it was without doing that. And you can't erase that. So you can only have the census as of when they started doing it, which is essentially useless. I mean, you can't really deduct how many there are from that. But then when I go over here and look at this, like, this is a regular 9.8 direct, and it says 1943 in 9.8. And this is a 9.8 newsstand, and it is denoted as newsstand on the label, and it also says 1943 in 9.8. So they're still lumping together the direct edition and the newsstand edition for this book. But for some reason, in some instances, like the Spider-Man one, they break it out. I'm not sure that it matters, because, like, I mean, it would be, I guess, better to have like a census of newsstands starting from whenever they started doing it. But then it's not accurate because of those 20 years. So maybe just lump them all together at this point. Like, that ship has sailed. But leave it in the comments if you have any more insight on that. But it is just one thing to remember when you do see this number here, like in 9.8, it's for a signature series, or it's for the JSA, or it's for the blue label, or it's for the restored, or it's for the, qualified. It's whatever label it is, that's where they're putting those numbers here. So a couple of positive things coming out of CGC, a couple of negative, I guess, but thank you for coming along for the ride. It has been a ride, and I really appreciate all of you guys. Don't forget those 2 giveaways, that gold Todd McFarlane Spider-Man. All you have to do is subscribe, comment, and like, and head over to brycecomics.com, sign up for that newsletter, get yourself entered to win a 9.8 copy of the first appearance of Noel. Catch you in the next video. Bye.